Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Seizure. I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver.
And we would not survive this movie that we're talking about today.
Fuck no.
For the main reason that we have PPs.
Yeah, well, if New York didn't rape and kill us first, this 45 would get us.
Oh, for sure. And I would be okay with that. I'd be okay with that.
No. No, I would not be okay with that.
I mean, I don't know. Anyway, so Ms. 45 is what we're talking about today.
Yes.
This wraps up our pseudo 3-episode pseudo theme of the types of movies that just aren't made anymore.
This movie, you just told me that somebody made a sequel to I Spit on Your Grave.
The original guy.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, these movies are still being made. I mean, it's basically what fucking Taken is like fucking 8 million movies of revenge.
Well, but more specifically, rape revenge.
Yeah, but I mean, they've remade I Spit on Your Grave. They've remade Last House on the Left. They've remade Straw Dogs.
Okay, but I think the thing is that the original kind of exploitation rape revenge subgenre is much less complicated than what they make these days.
I mean, they made that movie Revenge, which is a rape revenge movie. It came out last year.
Yeah, but
it got like really good reviews.
Okay, but wait.
That was pure exploitation.
But that was okay. Fair enough. So, all right, but here's so part of what I want to talk about with this is, just flat out the topic of rape in movies or various other media, if you will.
You know, it's really dangerous for us to talk about rape.
I know, but there's specifically what I wanted to talk about is the not the yes, obviously right. But like
I've just totally derailed you, haven't I?
No, you haven't. I'm pushing through. I'm going to do this. But no, like we all know people who by all means absolutely never should rape be used in a story. That it's just not something that can be. It's something that if you use it, it's lazy. It's lazy to have that be used as a motivator or as a
beyond even lazy. I just think it's in bad taste. It's
maybe
manipulative. It's in the wrong hands in a lot of ways.
Possibly.
Like Abel Ferrara, like where does a guy like that get the idea I'm going to make a rape revenge movie?
He was a New Yorker, and it's like, this movie should just be called. New York 1979, the movie.
But what kind of person, seriously, is like, I'm going to make a rape revenge movie?
Well, okay.
Maybe in the 70s and 80s, it's definitely a lot more commonplace.
Sure,
and it's sort of it is an exploitation.
It's
a device, right? It's a device to get to a lot of killing and revenge
and making sure that the person you want. The bad guy is killed. The bad guy is punished.
Yeah, I will say that Miss 45, and we'll probably get into it, is got an interesting twist.
Yes.
To that type of movie.
Yes, and but I'm not the person who will say that by all means, absolutely, rape is off limits, right? Because unfortunately, we live in a world where that happens. And if that is something that is, I guess, crucial or critical to getting you from point A to point B, like The Accused could never be made if you don't have that incident at the beginning. Because after that, it's like, well, there's nothing there at that point. It's like
The scene in that, I know exactly what you're talking about, is a far more graphic than anything in this movie.
And while that is treated as a, I mean, it is what happens to set up the protection that the rapists have, the links that people go to make Jodie Foster's character. I mean, it's very vital. It's like you can't tell that story unless you have that very, very, very. What's the word I'm looking for? Violent and explicit.
Yes, it's very explicit. I don't think it needs to be, though.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have, but the topic is there.
Sure,
the topic is there, and I think it's kind of used as juxtaposition to say, it's like, look at what they did to her physically and what they later try to do mentally to basically how they're shielded from that just not being a, just because she's, drunk and dancing around and whatever. And it's like she, but whatever. But my point is that I'm not somebody who says, well, if rape comes into a story, then it's automatically trash. It's throw it out.
I'm not either, but I think you need to be careful.
You need to be careful
with how it's portrayed, and if you're crossing a line into something that's gratuitous.
Sure. That I will agree that it's like, okay, well, that's not necessary just to like if you're reading a book and there's a rape scene in the book, you could possibly do it as the aftermath. Like you could have something in one chapter and the next chapter pick up in the aftermath and dealing with the psychological part. If you decide to go into Stephen King levels of detail for 45 pages about that, that's okay.
Right.
Now you're maybe just wanting to sell the smut.
You're a little too into it maybe
right.
as well, which
maybe.
is, yeah.
Which, I mean, again, as you said, that there's a whole spectrum to stuff that people are into.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, but whatever. But like, there's a difference between there's a line that eventually you cross to say, okay, that's just smut at this point.
Well, it was interesting to me when you mentioned that the one line that the second rapist in Ms. 45 says about
this ought to make you talk.
This ought to make you talk, right? While he's raping her, was cut.
Yes.
From early releases of this movie and was restored later.
It's like, wow, okay, so let's set this up real quick. So this movie does not really waste a whole lot of time. You meet Thana, who is a mute seamstress at a fashion designer's. And she, you see her just kind of going through her day-to-day life or whatever, and you already kind of have a lot of sympathy for her because she's a mute. She lives by herself. She lives in a dangerous city because New York, again, was the armpit of the world in the late 70s. Like there's a scene where they're in an alleyway and it's just garbage just piled. It's like, yeah, that's not set dressing. That is, they just found this alleyway to shoot. And Abel Ferrara is like, hey, let's shoot here. Yeah, it's dirty. It's gross.
Yeah, there was trash everywhere in that movie.
Right. But anyway, she's on her way home from the grocery store. She gets raped by Abel Ferrara. He's in a mask.
He's in a mask. He's just waiting in an alley.
Right. And
for like anyone to pass by.
Anybody to pass by. Actually, I wrote down her entire days, that the entire first 10 minutes of the movie, her bad day is she gets held at gunpoint, then raped. She gets her groceries ruined. Like she comes home with an empty bottle of Coke because it's all spilled out and got messed up. That's sad.
That's what's sad.
No, that's no. I mean, they're layering the sympathy, right? It's like she's mute.
But meanwhile, you see somebody breaking into an apartment.
Yes.
And you don't know that it's hers, but you fucking know it's hers.
Right. So she's getting robbed at the time that she's coming home, getting raped, getting mugged, getting her groceries ruined, not able to ask for help or, in any in, in any efficient way, I guess you could say. Then she gets a second gun held to her face. She gets yelled at, and then she gets raped a second time before she ultimately kills the second guy. So, right. So you were saying that in the second rape scene, there is a line in which the guy realizes that she can't talk. And so he's raping her and says, "Oh, this ought to make you talk,
Make
huh?"
you talk, right? Yeah.
And that line was cut after its initial. The first VHS release did keep it, but after that, anytime you got it on video, it was cut out, and there was one of the on-screen murders at the end is cut out, which the movie's R-rated. There's no way you can work around the R rating of this movie. So I don't know exactly why they cut it, other than just to say, "Whoa, that's just one step too far, buddy."
It's weird because I mean, as far as these two rapes go, I mean, yes, they're awful, but they're not
long.
They're not like Straw Dogs awful or
I Spit on Your Grave of 18 minutes
or Last House on the Left, where those are pretty gratuitous, really.
Well,
really
horrifying
scenes. Yeah.
It's, in fact, these two rapists are like two pump chumps, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, so they're very like. All of that I just list off, like, is in the first 15 minutes of the movie. There's 65 minutes of other stuff happening in this 80-minute movie.
She really sells, I think, the horror of those two scenes with her face.
Yeah.
That just totally checked out, blank stare until she sort of takes her power back and kills the second guy.
Right, because the guy has the gun in his hand. She's reaching for this glass apple that's in this thing on her table. He drops his gun, or she realizes that he's put the gun down, and so she smashes him over the head, and then just continues to kind of and then she beats him with an iron.
Yeah.
So she decides at this point, hey, you know what? This is never going to happen again. Which, in fact, that's what the poster in the front of the DVD and everything said. This will never happen again.
And for a while, you have a lot of sympathy for her.
Yeah.
Until you fucking don't.
Right. So at this point in time, she's the next person she killed. Oh, so to get rid of this guy in her apartment, she doesn't call the police. She doesn't tell her neighbor that this guy broke in and that she had to kill him for, self-defense or whatever. And her neighbor's a piece of work. We'll talk about that lady here in a minute. But so she cuts up the body and just starts depositing it around town.
It's so bizarre.
But there's also some funny moments, like when she puts it in the guy's trunk.
The trunk, yeah.
And then you realize that his license plate say Georgia. So it's like he's going to take those body parts.
But she's cut up the body, which, I mean,
that would take
I understand that she's in shock, and I would understand to some degree her not calling the authorities and sort of like
as I said before,
dismissing the situation or ignoring the situation and leaving the body in the bathroom, which I don't even know why she moves it into the bathroom, but she does. But then, she makes a conscious choice to cut the body up. That is a hard thing, I would think, for a human to do. And
it's one thing to kill somebody.
And she does it with like perfect calm and calculation.
Right.
And it's at that point where you realize that she's already probably a little cuckoo.
Yeah, she's tipped over
and now she's been pushed to psychotic.
Right. I mean, like, she's already got things tough. That's probably affected her psyche.
Yeah.
She then killed somebody.
She has a psychotic break.
Yes. And again, it's all kind of basically done in her eyes and in her facial expressions. So after that, like as she's depositing the pieces around town, this one guy who's already catcalling people.
And pretty much every scumbag in New York that sees her
wants
to rape or fuck her or whatever. Like, is coming on to her in some way.
Yeah, it's like she is a magnet for scum.
Yeah.
And which to me, I mean, again, it's late 70s New York. I mean, that's just what I think of I mean, like, I don't know how any woman lived in New York
Right.
at that time.
You didn't fucking need an escort to go anywhere.
Yeah, probably a big beefy guy
Yeah.
too. So she dumps something, at the side of the road, and the guy sees it, and he's like, "Hey, baby, you dropped this," and she runs away from him. He runs after her, and I'm thinking at this point, it's like, dude, this is kind of on you at this point. It's like you.
You just said he looked like he was transported from the 50s.
Yes, because he's got a pompadour.
He's got the pompadour and
he's got rolled up jeans.
Yeah, and the sort of like 50s button up with the collar and everything. Yeah.
And so she gets into an alleyway where she can't get out. And so he just comes running up to her, and so she just turns around and shoots him. Right between the eyes, right in the fucking.
She's a good shot.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And now, at this point, she decides basically everybody's got to go. If you're a male, you got to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then, so
it's yeah.
Her and her coworkers.
See, I can't even imagine this as like a female fantasy either, because that is just as twisted as like if it were the opposite.
Right.
So I hear this movie bandied about as being empowering.
Well, I don't know about it empowering.
I don't understand that at all.
It's more of a character study of somebody just being broken by their experience.
Yeah.
I don't see it as being empowerment.
I don't either. Well, it's at the back of the.
Well, that's Draft House.
Draft
Did
House.
you read the back of Miami Connection?
But the Draft House that called it, complex, which it is.
Sure.
And empowering, one of the most empowering movies of the 70s or 80s or whatever. Like, and I was like, I mean, if you're a woman and finds this movie empowering, you're scary. Because I mean, she just starts straight up murdering dudes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's where things. So again, we go now day 2. All the ladies in the who do the seamstressing at the fashion designer's place. They're out at dinner or at lunch or whatever. And they're at this just crappy little burger dive. They're watching this guy making out with his girlfriend, and they even like one of the sassy one of the group. It's like, hey, what are you doing over there? We're trying to eat over here. And so the girl, no, that's how she talks.
I know.
I mean, she's like one of the guys.
Yeah.
So she's also my favorite because she has the 3 lines in a row that just kill me. But the girl that was making out with the guy leaves. So the guy sees that there's a whole table of women. He just goes over to the table and starts hitting on them. To which my favorite one, the sassy one, tells him first to go fuck himself or to fuck off. Then she says, get fucked. And then she says, get bent. And then they just leave. The guy's not getting it. But Thana is slow to leave. And so she lets the guy just ramble off about how he's a photographer, which he is. He's a fashion photographer. He wants to take her to a studio and get some shots of her, which she agrees. She goes back there. And it's one of those places that I think only exists in New York where like an elevator opens up into the loft.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, look at my stuff. And then
see,
she's
it's
like,
a nice place.
And then she just fucking unloads on him.
She shoots him like 8 times or something.
Right. And it's like, I'm not even sure he was really going to rape her. I mean, I'm sure he was trying to impress her.
Right.
And I'm sure he wanted.
He was coming on really strong. But yeah, I mean, not every guy who hits on a woman wants to rape her,
Right.
Yeah.
But in this world.
Yes. In this world, yes.
But.
I mean, the one guy chasing after her, I mean,
that guy was just an idiot.
Yeah, he was an idiot.
Yeah, he was just trying to be chivalrous and hope,
Yeah, but he was following her before she dropped the bag, so he's kind of a dirtbag too.
But he's also,
and he was catcalling women before.
But what I'm saying is, I think he thought of himself as, I'll return her bag, and then she'll be so glad that I'll take her out on a date or whatever.
Well, sure, that was probably his plan, but
right.
But he was still following her before, which is a creepy thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when the girl starts running away, she doesn't want what you think she wants. Whatever that may be.
She wants nothing to do with you.
Right.
That's an easy cue to pick up on.
Yes. Yes, it is. So she kills that guy. She then is now like really feeling it. Like she's now dressing up to be attractive.
Right.
She's got leather pants. She's like, she's
like starting to lay traps.
right. And she's like at one point even dressed with like a hood on. Like she's formulating like a
persona.
Yeah.
Yeah. She likes it. She's addicted to it. She
feels like she's taking back what she's lost.
Right, exactly. She is empowered by this brutal violence.
Right.
Yeah.
So she goes to Chinatown, sees a guy just making out with his girlfriend. Girlfriend works at Baskin Robbins. I don't know if Baskin Robbins signed off on this.
I don't know how the hell they could have, but
I doubt that they would have.
Nope.
And he's just making out with his girlfriend while she's on break or whatever, right? Because like they split up and he goes home and the girlfriend goes back into Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, she follows him
and
to his apartment, and she's going to kill him.
She's going to kill him, but yet he gets inside of like a gated door, basically, before she can get to him. So she fails.
Yeah.
So she goes to a bar instead where this guy is like telling his sob story, which this guy...
This scene is, to me, the most interesting scene in the movie.
Yes. Okay, so set this up.
All right, so it's just a shot of this guy turned to someone on his left, telling a story about his girlfriend and that they broke up. I don't know that they really broke up, but he's telling a story about
it's a sob story.
How like their relationship was wasn't great. The sex was good, but his wife or his girlfriend or wife or whoever was depressed.
She was getting antsy because she wanted something to do.
She wanted something to do, so he encouraged her to get a job.
Well, no, she wanted a job, and he's like, "No wife of mine needs to get a job."
I guess I missed that.
Then he's like, "All right," but she kept at it. It's like, "Fine, if you need something to do, get a part-time, get a full-time, whatever."
So she got a job, and he said that things were better, but the sex wasn't as good, and the meals weren't as good.
Right.
I mean, he's, he's
yeah.
that guy, and but he said it was better.
Yeah, because she wasn't as antsy and she wasn't complaining as much.
And then you see who he's talking to, and it's
right. It's Thana,
our Miss
which is
45.
just staring at him drinking like out of a straw.
Yeah, she's drinking a cocktail, just like blankly, sort of staring at him.
This reminds me a lot of like Sleepaway Camp, of just like the blank stare.
Yeah, of Angela. Yeah. So he continues his story. He says that he's a shoe salesman.
Yeah.
Which takes him on the road a lot, He keeps saying, which is driving me crazy. But he works in New England, so he travels there a lot. Sometimes he's gone 2-3 weeks on
2-3 nights a week.
Or 2-3 nights a week on trips up north and upstate. And
but he always comes home.
He always comes home, but sometimes he calls
and she's not there.
But he also is calling at stupid times, like 3 a.m.
Yeah, but like also at 9 p.m.
But not at 9 p.m. He says,
right.
Yeah. And he's like, maybe she's with her mother or out with her friends or whatever. He's like trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. But he doesn't. He still is like, something's gnawing at him, that something's not right.
Right. And up to this point, he's just telling us out his sob story. It's like, of course you're going to hear it from his point of view.
Right.
So it's like, this guy's not trying to put the moves on her. Like, not once does he actually put the moves on Thana. He's just telling us. He just needs somebody to have a drink with and for him to tell his story.
So, cut to them on the water somewhere.
Yeah, on the park bench.
On a park bench. He's continuing his story, and he tells a story about how he follows his lady when she goes out one time, and he follows her, and he discovers her with another woman.
Yes.
Having sex or whatever. They're in an embrace or of some sort.
Right.
So he leaves. He goes home,
takes shower,
and he
changes his clothes,
right,
and all of that. It's like everything is normal. Like you think it's just going to end with him saying, "Well, it's over."
And then he says that he strangled her cat.
Yes. And at this point, reverse shot on the Thana. She's holding the gun to him.
Yeah,
now.
and she's visibly
like shocked. She's like,
"Whoa!" Well, she's kind of like, "Oh, now I have a reason." You see that in her face.
Well, but she is stunned by that admission.
Yes.
Like at this point now, this is a bad. Like the poor guy earlier in Chinatown was not a bad guy, as far as anybody knows.
Right.
But this guy is a bad guy.
Yeah, but it still doesn't deserve to get shot in the head on a park bench. But yeah, he's a bad guy. He strangled a cat. It's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
But she fires the gun, but it doesn't go off.
Which then he realizes.
And he hears it. He sees it. He takes the gun from her. Asks her, "What is this? A joke?" And she's the look of like, "Oh shit, I'm fucked."
Yeah.
And he points the gun at her, but he doesn't fire it. He puts it to his head.
He cocks the hammer first.
Yeah, cocks the hammer, puts it to his head, pulls the trigger, and kills himself.
Yeah, which makes me think that I'm guessing because she didn't cock the hammer, and I doubt she would have walked around with it.
It wouldn't have clicked if she didn't cock the hammer.
True.
And it's not like it's a revolver. It has
Right.
a clip. So the only way I can think is if it's just a mechanical failure.
Yeah, possibly.
Or that's it. Or that's all it could have been. And it doesn't make. I don't know. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Yeah, but at the end, that guy did one for her.
But then that's the thing. Like, why would he think that there is a bullet in there?
At this point, I think he's just like, whatever. It's
almost like he's trying to scare. Maybe he doesn't mean to kill himself, but he does. I don't know. It's sort of an ambiguous scene.
I think
which I kind of like about it.
I kind of took it as, you know what? Fuck it. If it goes off, it goes off. If it doesn't,
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting scene.
Yeah, it is because it's the one scene that takes its time. Like the rapes didn't even take their time, which I mean, I guess technically wouldn't, but this scene is like actually like it's the longest scene of the movie, probably. I mean,
I mean, it's probably the longest piece of dialogue.
Yeah, and I mean, this one guy has to deliver like 2 pages of dialogue by himself.
Yeah,
just with a girl just staring at him blankly, and I mean that's it is an interesting scene. It's probably the best scene of this movie.
I think so. Yes,
it's not the most famous scene of this movie.
Is that the last scene?
The last scene. So here we are now. There's been a little bit of talk about
a Halloween party.
That her boss is throwing at their studio.
And he really wants her to go. He's like so distressed that she's not going to this.
And then she decides that she will go. And he says, well, are you going with anybody? And she's like, no. And he's like, will you go with me? In which case now I think the switch is flipped in her brain. That's like, well, he's the next guy.
Right.
Which I question the heterosexuality of this character, because I think the early scenes you're supposed to think that he is gay because he is a fashion designer. He's talking to a buyer and he's very flamboyant. And I think that it was meant to imply that he was gay, but later it's just that no, he's not. Like he seems to be somewhat like into her, or at least I don't know. I mean, like there's one scene which he notices that she's very upset and asks how she's doing.
Yeah, he seems to have
a legitimate care for her.
There's a scene later though that makes me feel like it's self-serving when he is sort of reprimanding her for her poor work recently, which legitimately she's been doing poor work, and she does.
Well, she's not denying it.
And she does need some correction, but then he kind of like goes behind her and starts rubbing her shoulders. It's really creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is intended to be that way.
Kind of
because
talking into her ear from behind. It's a little.
Yeah,
It's
it
definitely
been,
much
handled differently. It could have been like he is just being a father figure sort of thing, but it's not handled that way. I do think you're right. I do think he is kind of buttering her up.
Yes,
a little bit, because he could have fired her.
Yes.
She is not performing well at work. I mean, obviously, she's got problems that she's not talking to anybody about. It does lead to an interesting moment where when she leaves that meeting, one of the girls that she works with is like, why did he want to talk to you in his office? Are you in trouble or whatever? And she writes down, I just wish they would all leave me alone. And the other girl looks at it and she's like, she's legitimately like, I don't know what to say to this. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's basically the thesis statement of this movie is, she is basically like, leave me alone, all men. I wish they would all just leave me alone, because she can't she can't defend herself vocally. She's built to be kind of this very innocent and very frail person. And she had that one really bad day.
Yeah, I almost wish that the movie were a little longer and you got to know her a little bit more before her bad day, because I think you could maybe see some things build up in her that then then in her that bad day really turns her or puts her over the edge. Maybe she
had like a bad upbringing, or
I don't even know that you need that. I just I want to see her normal life a little bit more.
Yeah, because and this is again this kind of, I wonder if the guy who made Sleepaway Camp watched this movie and thought, we can do something with that blank stare back. Yeah. I wonder if because if you talk to somebody and you want information from them and they just stare at you, that's unsettling. And it usually is an unsettling thing to the point where the person that wants that information from that other person starts to get agitated. It's like, why the fuck aren't you talking to me? Why are you not acknowledging me? It's like, what are you, it's like, what are you, stupid or something, or whatever, right? It's like people, it ramps up very quickly if you give somebody no response. And you can do that. You can do that online too. Call somebody a name in a Facebook group, and then let them respond to you and don't respond back.
Yeah.
You will see them begin to crack. And you can feel it from them. I mean, and it's even worse face to face. It's like, why aren't you recognizing my question or my presence or whatever?
Yeah, why aren't you acknowledging me?
Yeah, and that could have, 5 more minutes could have shown her just walking down the street, not even being catcalled, but it's like somebody offers her something and she takes it and just keeps walking and she can't say anything back. The other person instantly with, oh, what a bitch.
Yeah, right.
Or whatever. Or worse, call her something even worse. But I
don't even think it registered with me that she was mute until she got home to her apartment with the robber in that scene. So yeah, I guess.
Well, I know it didn't register because you said, "Why don't she call the police?"
Well, I should have known. I should have known better afterwards. But call the police, meaning
right? Get help.
Report this to the police, right?
Right, but
yeah, but it's also but it also it does go to the very real issue where women in this situation are afraid.
Yeah.
And sometimes are not really welcome to report these things. So much sexual assault goes unreported, and it definitely plays to that. But she's got a dead body in her apartment,
right?
But
I think this is in a way you can say, well, this movie becomes a little bit. It takes a different level of deepness when the fact that she's literally voiceless.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not that it would have been tough 40 years ago to report a rape, but she literally can't speak. She can't even say no. So what do it's like it's literally taking a voice away when it's not her fault that she can't say no.
This is where I kind of don't feel comfortable talking about the movie because I don't know how to put myself in her shoes.
Sure.
Or the empowerment side of those shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were a woman or a man who was raped, would you find something cathartic about this movie, even though she goes to the absolute worst and darkest places?
I mean, in a way, it is. I mean, somebody could say, you know what?
Because
she does what I felt.
Is it really just catharsis, right?
Or wish fulfillment at the moment,
right? It's this thing that you would never do, but you probably had fantasies of it. Yeah. I mean,
maybe that's the empowerment,
and that part of it in being able to play it out in your mind or fantasize about it is a way of getting through it and coping.
Yeah, maybe.
And this is just all of that, but played out for real.
Yes.
Or as a fantasy.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, because I
don't want to belittle the reaction with but she definitely
if
she objectively goes too far.
Right. If you find yourself at any point in time at all belittled, whether you're a male or female, if you ever find yourself abused in any way, shape, or form, and you look to this movie and say, that's it, I'll get this gun and just start blowing these motherfuckers away, you might be a little cuckoo.
Well, yeah.
But if you look at that and say, that is how I felt.
That's how I felt.
At that moment, if I could have done all of those things and gotten away with it, even if the ultimate end that comes to her happens, you know what? Hey, fuck off, everybody, I win. But in a way, it's kind of wish fulfillment. In a way, it's like the empowerment's a funny word to attach to this because cathartic is the better word.
I think so too.
Because if somebody said in a trial I was empowered by Ms. 45 to kill my attackers, it's like, well, okay, weird. Now, if you were directly in mortal danger of that person, okay. But if you stalked somebody and then killed them for being the opposite sex, that's weird. I
mean, I'm obviously no psychologist, but
I think we can all agree that's weird.
Yes, but I think I could see someone going through something traumatic like that. And in some ways having thoughts along those lines, that they could find some sort of catharsis or comfort in, something to take back some of what they've lost, the control that they've lost. I don't think most normal people, even in that sense, that state of trauma, would do such a thing, but they might find some sort of way through their PTSD essentially, by kind of confronting that within themselves and then moving past it.
Well, it would be, in a way, it would be helping them slay their own inner demons.
Yeah.
Two movies that, I mean, okay, we've already said I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
We already mentioned that. That is almost a fan service level of, that guy should get his dick cut off in the bathtub.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That is a different
revenge
type of catharsis.
Is taken out on those who perpetrated the attack,
exactly,
and only those people,
right? And they get it real bad in very clever ways. Mm-hmm. That's an awesome movie.
So in that regard, like the sort of morality, if you will, of something like I Spit on Your Grave is a little more black and white. Good and bad, whereas Ms. 45 is blurry,
very blurry.
It is complex.
It does go a little bit more in line with like the Death Wish movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where there you have Charles Bronson. It's like finding the people
Yep.
that are causing and starting problems.
Yep. Absolutely.
But also, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
But Death Wish also sort of has that element of, like the gunslingers.
Yeah.
I'll kind of poke you until you draw first, and then I'll outdraw you.
Well,
you
I would say that most people who have, in a modern way, interpreted Batman were fans of Death Wish.
Yeah.
Or of that type of anti-hero.
Yeah.
But it's the same kind of blurriness where it's like, okay, yeah, technically you could help, but should you just call the police?
Yeah.
Should you hunt down and kill a guy in wide open space with a bazooka?
Right.
I'm thinking, no.
was that Death Wish 3? That was the third
No,
one,
4
right?
or 5. There is a guy who gets it in Death Wish 3. It's 4 or 5 where he just blows a guy away.
Well, that was just.
But I mean,
by the time you get to Death Wish 3, you're just getting into the absolute.
Oh,
ridiculous.
Death Wish 3 is a cartoon, and that's amazing.
I mean, it's like he's gunning people, shooting people in the back as they run away, and to the thunderous applause of the neighborhood.
Death Wish 2 does have my favorite line though, where he sees the guy with the cross, and he's like, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." It's like, well, you're gonna meet him.
You're gonna meet him.
Anyway,
so we should get to the final scene. Probably.
Okay, so the final scene is at the Halloween party. She is dressed as a nun.
Yeah, she's dressed like a sexy nun.
Like a sexy
I'm just gonna
nun.
say it.
That's fine.
She's got the red lipstick all on too, like really thick,
sleeveless nun top, whatever the
thigh high stockings. Yeah. I mean, she knows what she's doing here.
Right, and she's got her gun tucked into her vinyl control top stockings there, and
control top. Wow, that's impressive. Stocking connoisseur.
Not really.
You know the lingo.
Not really. I just know what things are called.
All right.
Anyway. So anyway, she goes with the boss.
With her boss, yeah.
And he is very clear that he is interested in her.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes her upstairs. And he's like basically kissing her from head to toe.
Yep.
And then it's like decides he's going to go in for the puss.
Oh yeah.
And sees the gun. He's like, to which, you could say that's part of the costume, but no, she just blows him away.
Yep.
Everybody downstairs hears the gunshot and they start to freak out. She comes out and just starts blasting guys away. And, one of her coworkers like grabs a knife and basically instead of really charging her, she lets her back into her and then stabs her in the back. She turns around and she speaks one word, and that is sister, before she dies.
Yes.
Meanwhile, her landlady, who's this kooky ass old lady, has found the robber's head.
Yeah.
In a bag in her place, and she's got cops there. She's worried about her dog because her dog is obsessed with Thana.
Yeah, there's like a weird scene where she takes the dog for a walk
to get rid of the dog.
Because the dog keeps sniffing around the dead body parts in her apartment. And
and it doesn't help that she feeds part of the guy's body to him.
And you get the sense that she's going to kill the dog. She ties it to some driftwood or something on the river, on the Hudson River.
Like a post or something.
Yeah, and you get the sense she's going to kill it because she points the gun at him.
But then she just leaves.
But you don't know what happens until the very end, when the dog returns home. It's chewed through its leash.
Yeah,
and it's found its way home to its owner.
Right, and so like in a way that was kind of like the last bit of her humanity.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so then it was represented by a dog. I don't think anybody told Abel Ferrara, as a studio note, you should really let the dog. I think he was like, that's the representation of her last piece of humanity.
It was clearly deliberate. Yeah.
So I've got lots of notes here about both Abel Ferrara and Zoe Lund, who played Thana. First, before I get into the, so what did you think of this movie? Because this is a relatively iconic movie in the rape revenge subcategory.
Yeah, this is of the biggies in that subcategory. It's the one I haven't seen. It's eluded me. And I hadn't seen Driller Killer either. Abel Ferrara's his movie he did before this. But I watched that last night.
You did what like most people should aspire to. You watched a couple Abel Ferrara movies, early Abel Ferrara movies back to back.
Yeah, yeah. So I watched Driller Killer last night, and I watched Ms. 45 today. Both first time watches. Both very different movies, if I'm being honest. I think Ms. 45 is a much stronger picture.
Oh, it's
Driller Killer.
Much more polished than Driller Killer.
Yes,
sure.
I liked it. I mean, I liked it as much as you can like a movie like this. Like I said to you, you said me Driller Killer is a movie you either love or hate. There's no in between, and I kind of am in between on that one. I kind of see, the potential of Ferrara as a director in that movie. I think there's some interesting ideas. It's definitely a bit belabored. It's a little bit pretentious.
It's scuzzy as fuck.
It's very scuzzy, but I kind of dig it. I like the I kind of like the punk rock attitude it has.
It feels like a movie that is made by punk rock.
Yeah,
it's like it feels angry.
And again, it's another movie of a kind of a person pushed too far.
Yes.
Like I kind of got like Michael Douglas vibes. What was that movie? Falling Down, right?
Yeah.
Like this guy is just trying to live a life, make a living, and everyone around him is driving him crazy to the point where his only relief is fucking killing people with a power drill.
Right.
Using the Portomatic or whatever.
Yeah.
Freaking kills me. Interesting movie. Won't probably ever watch it again. If I do, it'll be years from now. Ms. 45 I could see returning to in a shorter period of time.
Sure.
Because I do think there's something there to analyze.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean I think that it's a very brisk watch.
I enjoy the Ms. 45 more now talking about it.
Yeah.
I kind of am appreciating it more just having a conversation about it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Than I did while I was watching it.
Sure. One of the things about Ms. 45 is that it deals with a very, very serious topic where you have there are 2 rape scenes in the first 10 minutes of this movie, 15 minutes of this movie. But they're not overly graphic.
No.
There's no nudity in this movie.
Nope.
That probably is partially because Zoe Lund was 17 when they filmed this. Although, as I said to you, I don't know if that would have mattered to Abel Ferrara.
I don't know that it.
I mean, if she was emancipated anyway, which she might have been, because I think she might have been a model at the time. If
you're 17 shooting a movie with this subject matter with Abel Ferrara in New York City,
who knows what's going to happen?
1980 or 1979 or whatever, you probably don't have a whole lot of parental direction.
No. 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 I think it's surprisingly tasteful.
Yeah, I mean,
for its subject matter,
it's
and for the genre that it's in.
It's the 2 scenes in question are handled somewhat delicately, but graphic enough to get the horror across.
Yes,
but not graphic enough to be gratuitous.
Right. It's like underhand tossing a ball to your buddy versus how some movies like the Death Wish movies would do it overhanded.
Yeah.
And as hard as possible. This is hey, here comes the pitch, and then the reaction to it is hitting the ball.
Yeah. I mean it's effective still though.
It's effective, but it's not.
But I mean that in the sense that you see something horrible happening.
Yes.
So it's not to be taken lightly.
No, not at all.
But is certainly not I was expecting it to cross some lines, and,
Right.
and it didn't, which
Right.
I was happy
Right.
about, or pleased that it didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
Right. Now, about Abel Ferrara, Driller Killer was his second feature-length movie. He'd made some shorts. His first feature-length movie was a porn.
Porno. Yeah.
Yeah.
9 Lives of a Wet Pussy.
Yeah.
I read that on his IMDb and I laughed out loud.
Yeah. He was in that too.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Ms. 45 was his follow-up to Driller Killer.
Right.
Driller Killer is definitely, I think, showed that he had some sense of ability to make a movie, because after that he starts making big movies.
Mm-hmm.
You mostly know Abel Ferrara from Bad Lieutenant,
Yes. Bad Lieutenant and King of New York.
King of New York.
Those were his work in the 90s is
Yeah.
what I know him from. The Funeral is another one.
Well, that's funny because like I mostly knew him from Driller
Body
Killer
Snatchers.
and Ms. 45 and Body
Body
Snatchers.
Snatchers, yeah.
And then he did Dangerous Game, which was kind of a big deal because of Madonna.
I remember when that movie came. I've not seen that one.
I might have seen
Harvey
it at some
Keitel's
point.
in that too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I vaguely remember The Addiction and The Funeral. The Addiction was a vampire movie, I think.
Yes, I have not seen that. I have seen The Funeral, like I said. Funeral's really good. He kind of got into like a gangster era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Like corruption. He was
Right.
really fascinated with corruption in the 90s.
the real interesting person, though, in this movie, or about this movie, is Zoe Lund. Like I said, she was 17 years old at the time that this movie was being made. This was her first movie. Her second movie, which was called Special Effects, she played 2 roles. Now, the first role, where she plays like a up-and-coming rising actress, she's actually overdubbed. So it was an hour into her second movie before you actually hear her actual voice on film.
Oh, wow.
So, she went this entire movie, except for the whisper of sister, which was in slow motion. So it's not even, it's not even really her actual voice. Then she goes half of her next movie before you actually hear her speak. That movie, if I'm not mistaken, was about like, a guy kills the actress, but then finds a lookalike to finish the movie, but also use some of the footage that he filmed of killing the other actress. Something like that. She plays a really important part in Bad Lieutenant, actually.
Oh, I don't remember.
She
She's in
was
that.
she was somebody who actually ends up delivering a specific line to Harvey Keitel that kind of like motivates or justifies his. I'm not exactly sure. I actually have not seen Bad Lieutenant.
I haven't seen Bad Lieutenant in probably 20 years.
She plays kind of like an epiphany type of character, or a type of character that's almost like is something that Harvey Keitel takes direction from almost.
Okay.
But she mostly became a writer. She was a screenwriter. The booklet that came with the Blu-ray of Ms. 45 has some of her poetry in it.
Oh, interesting.
But now this is where things get really, really interesting. She became a hardcore heroin user.
Oh, wow.
She actually lobbied for it to be legalized for recreational use. And Richard Hell, which was a punk rocker, said that you've got to admire someone as committed to it as she was. She didn't just love heroin, she believed in it. Which is funny because she is actually very spiritual as a person. Like she says that she never lost her I think she was a Protestant or something, but she never lost that, and that she always felt like the Bible was like the ultimate story of like the idea of how to find truth in the world and everything. And by all accounts, seemingly took her spiritualism as a do good onto others sort of mode. But In 2012, Abel Ferrara said of her, Zoe was a brilliant, creative person before the drugs. The drugs just killed her. And she died in April of 1999 from heart failure due to coke use.
Oh, wow.
When she was on heroin, she hated marijuana, coke, all of that stuff. But when she moved to Paris in the 90s, she had a pretty heavy coke habit because I think that's all she could get there.
Probably easier to get, yeah.
Yeah, and so it basically replaced her heroin habit, and she died within 2 years of moving to Paris. Interestingly enough, she is still very much considered a really, really kind of interesting person. Like there have been documentaries made about her. Her husband, because she's not credited as Zoe Lund, as Zoe Tamerlis. Lund was the name of her husband that she had when she passed away. He's done documentaries about her, like once about her fame, and then once about her being raised as her as a child. So I mean, like, there's just like people who knew her have stories to tell about her. None of them necessarily are bad, except for obviously Abel Ferrara seemingly thinks that what she was before heroin is a lot different than what she became. And she actually, a lot of people, and this is somewhat contested a little bit, but most people believe her when she said that she wrote most of Bad Lieutenant, or at least a significant part.
Yeah, I
of
did
Bad
that.
Lieutenant.
Yeah, I did see her as a writer credit on that. Yep.
Yeah, and so a lot of people will say, well, I don't know how much that is actually true, but most people who worked on the movie said that there were constant rewrites. Most of her scenes were written just minutes before they filmed them. So, like, she's actually a pretty talented writer by all accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I really had in my notes was that Ms. 45 is 90% on Rotten Tomatoes from 30 reviews. And it's considered to have pretty wide and general praise for it. And I think even at the time that it was released, it had pretty good reviews.
Bo Dietl is in Bad Lieutenant as Detective Bo.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, that's funny. The movie I think that I've seen of Abel Ferrara I find the most intriguing is New Rose Hotel, 1998, starring Willem Dafoe, Christopher Walken, Asia Argento.
those are three weirdos.
Yeah. Annabella Sciorri, I think is her name.
Scoria.
I think Gretchen Mol is in that. It's based on a William Gibson short story.
Oh, okay.
And it's kind of got this sort of future sci-fi element to it, but it all takes place in a hotel. It's all like an interior sci-fi movie, which is sort of interesting. I don't remember much more about it other than it's a very talky movie.
Yeah.
Not really a lot of action. It's sort of like corporate espionage, if I remember correctly. And these two guys are kind of playing this call girl off of one another, played by Asia Argento. But interesting movie. It's one I'd like to revisit.
Yeah, maybe that's one we can check out on this show.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? We're not opposed to Abel Ferrara or sci-fi or Asia Argento.
That's true.
Or Christopher Walken or any of those other guys but I mostly heard
Harvey
Asia
Keitel.
Argento.
I like Harvey. I
Yeah,
like Harvey Keitel.
We have not talked about Harvey Keitel on this show.
We haven't watched anything with Harvey Keitel in it.
No, we haven't.
That's an interesting character actor. He made a lot of movies in the 90s.
Yes, he did.
Like a lot of movies. I think he was probably in 10 movies a year in the 90s.
Yeah. He must have gotten divorced or something in the 90s and had to pay.
Yeah, he made a shit ton.
Yeah. All
he
right.
was always kind of a stable actor. Like he was an Abel Ferrara guy. He was a Quentin Tarantino guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually something that came up about Zoe Lund, was that she had the opportunity to make more Abel Ferrara movies, opted not to because she didn't want to be part of Abel's stable. As
Oh
she called
yeah, I
it,
read that. Yeah.
which was a very common thing. Like
Yeah.
he worked with a lot of the same
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly.
So.
All right.
Well.
Interesting factoids there,
Yes.
Jeff.
Well, you know what? That's what I did on last night.
Cool.
Yeah.
I watched Driller Color.
Yeah. Hey, we were steeped in Abel Ferrara.
Yeah, right in his Ferrara. Right up there.
Oh God, that's not a place I want to be.
No.
Anyway, so the next 2 weeks we have a special guest.
Yes.
Mr. Charles Moore is coming to join us, and so Chuck has brought a couple movies to us. What's the first one? What are the two movies that he brought us?
I believe the first one is Tombstone. So we'll be talking about that modern classic Western.
Yep.
And then a total 180, and we'll be talking about Wes Craven's classic horror film, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes. So that's coming in the next couple of weeks. We've got some cool stuff in July coming, or June rather, coming. We kind of have 3 movies in a row that all have, we can all play off the word dark in one way or another.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's fun. We've got.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. We've got good stuff coming. It's going to be a summer to remember, I guess.
A dark summer.
Dark June.
Dark June.
Yeah. One of those movies I'm real excited to talk about because it's the 30th anniversary. And it makes me feel old thinking about it. Dark's not in the title, but his nickname has Dark.
God, it is 30. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, right? Isn't that depressing to think about?
That's crazy
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah.
Because I was 10 that summer.
Yep.
And I'm turning 40 this summer.
I know. Anyway, actually, you just turned 40 by the continuity of this episode's release. So,
I'm 40.
Yeah.
Damn.
Hey, it's all downhill from here. I'm enjoying it. Anyway, so you can get new episodes every Wednesday, filmseizure.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. That's at Film Seizure. I got Monster Mondays on Mondays, and right now we are in the middle of Godzilla month.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, getting ready for the big G to return. And then, so I've got some other stuff coming later in the year or later in the summer. That should be pretty fun to have a little discussion about. Yeah.
Till next week.
Yeah, until next week, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.